What's up, everybody? It's the Great Old Bushman. Food for thought. Is a hot dog considered a sandwich? Let's start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast.
Raise Rewind with Bushman and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome in, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast out there in the land on the Sick Media Podcast Network. I'm, of course, one of your hosts, the Great L. Bushman, and with me, as usual, as my buddy Drew. Welcome in, everybody. Make sure to go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop weekly, which we are doing weekly now, and thank you for subscribing and thank you for joining in. We've got a great show for you tonight. Drew, where do we begin? Because I'm all fired up after reading the thing about what Stu Sternberg said. I'm just kind of
maybe we should wait on that because
we want to wait till like the latter part of the show.
I don't want you to I know he gets you going and we
I was gonna bring out my Stu Sternberg clown shirt, but I don't want to do that just yet. And, we're credentialed. I don't want to get blackballed from being in the media room there.
Yeah,
so.
No, I get you. How about let's start off with Josh. Maybe Josh Lowe suffering a new injury.
Yeah, very disappointing. Thought he was going to be ready to get back to work this week, and it turned out it's the oblique again, isn't it?
Yeah, so he was out for, was it hip inflammation?
Mm-hmm.
And then, everything leading up to the weekend was that he was going to be back. I think they had said Sunday.
Yep.
And, then I did see in an article Topkin posted Saturday night about the breakout game and all that, that Josh Lowe was not included in the lineup for the Sunday or for the Sunday afternoon game, at least as of Saturday night. So, I was thinking, well, maybe they should give him an extra day, but obviously he tweaked his oblique at some point in, I guess, the ramp up to come back. I'm not sure exactly. I never read. Did you ever see if it was during like some sort of?
I didn't see where it's coming from because I went to the game on Saturday at Lecon Park in Bradenton where the Rays played the Pirates, and the buzz around Rays fans was about, hey, Josh Lowe's going to come back. He's going to be ready to get back to resuming, regular duties and workout and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, boom, we hear the news. It's like, and the thing is with this, I'm glad that it's happened now than either in the middle of the season or later half when, depending on how the team is doing. I'd rather have him. Now, I know it's messed up to say, but I'd rather have him suffer an injury now than like later. You know what I mean? So now he has more time to rest and rehabilitate instead of them trying to rush him back in. So because I think now with the start of the season, which we are almost a week and a half away, they have the depth where they can, they don't have to rush him back in. So am I concerned? I wouldn't say I'm not concerned, but I'm not like, oh my God, we're not going to have Josh Lowe for the season because of an oblique. We saw that with Tyler Glasnow last year. He injured his oblique but came back. So what are your thoughts?
You know me, I'm a vibes guy.
I know.
I really want Josh to, succeed again this year and, keep breaking out and keep, progressing to being one of the best players on this team. The oblique, that's always scary. I feel like as far as, it's not a major injury, thankfully, but as far as like, I guess you would call it maybe a common injury for a baseball player, it's probably one of the most, that and like a hamstring to me are like the two that always make me a little nervous because it feels like they can just
tweak it at any point in time.
Player up at any time. They can be really pesky. Thankfully, everything that they've said so far, it's very mild, very minor. It's grade 1. And really, it's more of, okay, they got to shut him down, but then he's just not going to have the at-bats that he needs to be ready for the season. So
Right.
I think I read that they expect him to be back, I think, second week, potentially as early as the second week of the season. So
I'm okay with that.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm definitely okay with that. And like
Yeah,
I said before, we've got plenty of depth out there where, it's don't rush him back. Don't rush him back too soon where he's going to tweak it again in some kind of like, weird workout or weird, where he's taking batting practice or whatnot.
It's unfortunate
right.
for 2 reasons, or besides the obvious of not having him in the lineup,
Mm-hmm.
being, he was probably going to hit in the 4 hole.
Yeah.
So, besides not having him in the lineup, it's unfortunate for 2 reasons. One, it comes on the heels of Johnny DeLuca getting hurt in the Dominican, and so you're talking now the depth in the outfield. They have guys in the corners, but now they're probably going to have to force Randy to play backup center field,
Which
is
he
fine.
played center field the other day and he looked very comfortable.
He did fine. And it's not so much that I don't think they'll be able to hold up until Josh comes back, because Josh is not even the best center fielder either. But it's just more of the compounding nature of like, okay, well, our first backup center fielder went down. Now our second backup center fielder went down. And so now we're going to have to force guys like Randy or to play in center where, he played that when he came up with the Cardinals, but not with the Rays. Or you're going to force Jose Siri to basically play every day, which, as much as he can, which is fine. But it's not ideal to start the season. And then, second, you just hate, like, with the way the roster is currently constructed, given that Wander is not coming back this year, probably not even probably, he's not coming back. I still inherently, like,
he's never coming back.
Add in a little, like, possibility, but I realize it's not happening. So with Wander not around anymore, this team is in desperate need of quality left-handed bats.
I'm glad that you brought that up too, because missing him in the lineup as a big left-handed bat, that's something
it's very heavy right-handed, and so all the proven, it feels like all the proven guys are right-handed. And you got some other guys, you got Brandon Lau still in there, but we know what that experience can be like. He can be great. He can also be really bad.
I'm glad that you brought up his name, and I'll tell you why. I was having a discussion with my buddy on Saturday because Lau was playing, and we were like,
he hit a home run for you.
He hit a home run, yes. And after he hit the home run, we were both like, he is Carlos Pena 2.0. Because all he can give you is strikeouts or home runs. And that's it. He's Carlos Pena 2.0. He's not going to have the Sir Brandon Lau just yet, just like Sir Carlos Pena does. But that's Brandon Lau. Like, it's a boomer bust with him. He is now the new Carlos Pena. So.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just tough losing the left hand. Him being a left-handed bat that you're going to rely on. Even if he gets platoons, more so during the season, because I know that they don't like Josh batting against lefties as much. It's still tough, especially just thinking early in the season, like the Blue Jays are going to throw out mostly right-handed pitchers to start the season. I know Gossman's going to miss the series, which is a positive for the Rays, but they're going to have Barrios and Bassett, and I think their fifth starter, I can't remember his name right now. I believe he's a right-handed pitcher, but like they'll have Kikuchi in there. But you're going to have a lot of right-handed starters.
I'm not worried about Blue Jays' pitching more than I'm just worried about their lineup, because their lineup always gives us issues and problems, especially Bo Bichette.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried. I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about the Blue Jays pitching, because their starter will always come out and give you like maybe 4 or 5, and then their bullpen usually blows it in the end. But it's just the lineup that is stacked, and that's what always scares me, especially now we're going into this opening series. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, the lineup's just not as balanced as we would like it.
Right.
It feels like not quite as balanced as in years past. Just not having that, not having Wander's switch hitting in there is tough.
Let it
But
go, Drew. Let it go.
no, I know. I'm just
Let it
saying
go.
not having that in there is, it's really going to be. I think it's going to be something that gets exposed a lot this year. Not saying they can't overcome it or they can't still succeed, but I think that unbalanced nature of the lineup that is going to unfortunately.
It's the unknown
rear
that
its
we kind
ugly
of
head.
It's the unknown that we touched upon last week, where it's question marks, with the rotation and question marks with the, the actual lineup. And there's one question I wanted to ask you coming into this week, and obviously we're next week we're going to be doing our season projections and our season preview, like our thoughts about what the Rays are going to do this year for 2024. Are you, or maybe I should wait till next week to ask you this question. Let's ask her this question. Amar, do you think the hype is not as big as it was last year coming into 2024 of this team, or do you think it's kind of in the middle? Because I don't think there's a lot of hype with this team like it was last year.
Yeah, I think last year, no, not nearly as much. Which is funny because they were. If you think about last year's, at the beginning of the last year, right? It's the playoffs were pretty abysmal against the Guardians. The offense
We don't need to talk about that.
looked bad, and there were some question marks, but it was. I feel like you had rock solid pitching going into the season, just without a doubt. Like arguably, if I remember correctly, especially before Glasnow's oblique injury, the Rays were considered one of the top staffs in baseball.
That's before all the injuries happened, though, with Rasmussen and
right.
Springs, and everybody kept going down, and it was just like, okay, we have to make a patchwork of the ship going forward.
Yeah,
That we have.
So I feel like last year it's like, okay, this is a good team. Like this is, they have solid pitching up and down the staff. You're talking about your fifth. Who was the fifth? Our fifth guy was Jeffrey Springs or Rasmussen. At the beginning of the season. I mean, you're talking. That's a deep rotation, and then you had depth in the minors, and the bullpen was solid. So it was okay. They have great talent. So there was a belief that, hey, they're going to be one of the best teams in the East for sure, maybe in the American League. And they proved that over the course of the regular season, even despite all this stuff that happened. This year, to me, it's more of, okay, they had some losses. So you can't argue that they're a better team, but they have enough depth to overcome those losses and to still be successful. But it almost feels more like they're banking on, or the prognosticators are just banking on how the front office has proven time and time again to like make things work. So it's more of betting on the track record of the team. Just, hey, they could throw out whoever out there and they're still winning 88 to 90 something games a year and getting in the playoffs. So this year, they're not as high end of talent, but they have depth throughout the roster. So, and we know how they can put together a team. So we're just going to bank them in for a wild card spot. To me, it feels a lot more iffy coming into this year. I'm starting to feel more optimistic about the team. And I won't get into too much detail about maybe like where I think they finish in the division, but to me, it feels much iffier going into this season than last year. And also the competition, I feel like, is just a lot greater. I was fully, not to the degree that it happened necessarily, but like I was fully expecting the Yankees to come back to earth last year, just out of sheer for injury. Like they had no injuries the year prior, it seemed like. So you knew like the injury bug was going to catch up to them last year. Now it did quite a bit, but like, I didn't see the Orioles taking as big of a step, but it felt like the Rays were easily top two, maybe, the top team going into last year. This year, the Orioles, I think are easily the leader in the clubhouse going into the season. And then there's just, I think some of the teams are just positioned better than the Rays at this moment, just because the Rays, even though they have the depth, they just took a step back. Like you can't argue that they didn't. Like, I'm sorry. Like I don't care that the offense did as great as it did in September without Wander. The offense is not going to be better. It's not a better offense going into the season than it was last year with Wander in the lineup or with, Manny Margot as a depth piece. Like, we don't know what some of these guys are going to do. So until they prove it,
right.
It's just,
and
I can't bank on it.
I'm looking at the other teams excluding Baltimore because I think Baltimore, to me, is the most complete in the AL East. And I'm looking. I think the 2, 3, 4, 5 spots are definitely wide open for a shuffle. And I think it's for any one of these other teams, including the Rays, to take those. To me, I can't put a definitive like, hey, who's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 right now? I can't. And that's because the rest of the teams in the division are kind of either equal to each other or one's going to be a little bit lower than the other. And with the Yankees, now that you have Garrett Cole out for almost 2 months, that puts the Yankees in a tough spot because they really have nobody else in the rotation besides him. And even if he comes back after the 2 months, there's no guarantee that he's going to be the same because he could go back on the IL and maybe go for TJ surgery. So I just think with do I think Baltimore's going to run away with it? Probably not. It's definitely going to be close like it is always every single year in this division. I agree with you with there's so many unknowns with this team right now that we won't really see the true team of this year until maybe 2-3 months into the season. And that's when you'll see, okay, these guys are going to be this is who this team is right now.
Caminero,
yeah.
That's a good point.
The over under right now for regular season wins for the Rays is 84.5.
Yeah,
I'm definitely taking the over on that.
Yeah, that's an easy call for me. So we'll get into it more next week. I think it would be, if you're just banking on the track record of the organization, hey, they made the playoffs 5 years in a row. Sure, they got in by the skin of their teeth the first year with the expanded wild card, but like they made the playoffs, X amount of years in a row. They always seem to find a way. I think, hey, they've earned that for you as a fan to be able to say like, hey, they've proven time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
I am not as comfortable with the team as currently constructed as I would be had they, obviously the injuries didn't carry over into this year, or like, the team as constructed going into last year. It's just not until I can see it. Like, I'm excited. I think they do have a lot of depth. They have a number of guys that can play multiple positions. The guys that they got in trades, Caballero, Palacios, and then Ahmad Rosario, like as a signing. These are guys that can play multiple positions all over the field. They're athletic. They can run. They can field. I know the metrics don't love Rosario, but like he can glove it at different positions. And like, so that excites me as a fan. I think that there's potential that hey, like a month in, we could say like, wow, we're running all over the place.
And see, that's why
they're spraying the ball around. This is great.
That's what I'm excited for. That's what I'm excited for too, as well, because it's the unknown. Because it could be an exciting unknown if everything clicks together, especially with the new guys they brought over. You know what I mean? Yeah. And plus, and I wanted to bring up this last show. There's one guy in the rotation I'm excited about. That's really he's gonna carry over the success that he had last season into the rotation. Is LoPriore.
Yeah. Zach Littell he's great. I'm excited. He pitched great against. Who was it? I don't remember the opponent for spring training, but he went like 5 shutout.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking him up on my fantasy teams. I know that much. No, but yeah, I'm excited. You're right. Like that's the thing about the unknowns is, hey, if it clicks, it can go really well. Like the ceiling, we don't know what the ceiling is with this team.
Exactly.
So you're saying like, okay, hey, the ceiling, not saying that they would have more wins than last year, but they don't need 99 wins to make us feel like, hey, this is a real contender. I don't know what the ceiling is with this team, but again, at the same time, I don't know what the floor is either. So whereas
I would rather have them be a sneaky team than like, hey, they're going to be the clear favorite to win the AL East. I would rather have them be an under the radar team the whole year and then be that sneaky team that gets streaky at the end and gets into the playoffs and is like the hot team going into the playoffs. I'd rather have them be that, because I don't think they haven't really been that team in a very, very long time because of all the success that they've had the past, almost 10 years now, where okay, it's almost expected the Rays are probably going to be in the playoffs because of the way they do business. But I think with this team coming into this year with all the unknowns that we have, let them be under the radar. Let them not get like the high press that we're usually not getting nationally wise. I would rather be that, because the sneaky team is always going to be the sneaky team that bites you in the ass going forward and going into the playoffs.
And they've always thrived in that role too.
Right. Exactly. The underdog. And everybody loves an underdog.
Yeah. So I mean, I think going into last year, you asked for the comparison, the floor was just so much higher. I felt like going in, and of course the 13-0 start was just icing on the cake. I mean, you saw the easy schedule to start. You're thinking, okay, 13 games, let's go 9-4, or, maybe 10-3. And that would be fantastic. So 13-0 was just something that no one saw coming. So that was just icing on the cake, but the floor was just, and that just raised the floor so quickly. But like even before that, like the floor was just so much higher. It felt like there was no way this team wasn't going to win.
It didn't raise the roof.
It didn't raise the roof. It just felt like there was no way this team wasn't going to win less than, 85 to 88 games.
Right.
Regardless of that 13-0 start. And then after that, it was like, oh man, 90, anything less than 90, we're talking it's disappointment. So this year it feels like, hey, things click. Yeah, another high 80s, 90 win total is in sight, but like it could be, I mean, we're talking worst case scenario, it would be they're out of contention and Randy's gone by the trade deadline type, like, hey, let's retool for next year. We know we don't want to pay Randy in the double digits, millions of dollars, let's get like there's a worst case scenario that looks really bleak.
That's a great segue into our segment that close out the show, is the stuff with Stu Sternberg and him saying comments that just make sometimes just shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth. Like
yeah. What did I'm pulling up the article now. I want to make sure.
I'm looking at it right now too.
Okay.
And
what were his quotes about? I know he talked about the they're going to take on some losses, right?
Yeah, but a lot of the stuff that he says, or a lot of the stuff that he's quoted, it's what are you pulling back from? You know what I mean? Like, what are you? It at this point with him, and I'll watch what I say on this show. At this point with him, when he says things regarding payroll, which he said like a couple months ago at FanFest, like it's uncomfortable. The payroll is uncomfortable for this year, and now they're taking real losses. Attendance was up 30% last year.
Yeah,
like that's highly noticeable, especially with a team that has had usually in the bottom of the barrels when it comes to attendance each and every year. But when attendance is up 30%, like that shows something that, hey, maybe the Rays fans that of this generation are coming out and watching the team, and the Snowbirds are no longer going to be in attendance. Obviously, they still are, but attendance is up 30%. And now you're saying things like we're going to pull back on things. Like, what is that? I just don't understand. Like, what are you pulling back from? Like, why is it so hard that you can't spend the money and things are uncomfortable for you? It almost seems like it's a threat. You know what I mean? Like, what are you threatening then? If you're pulling back and not wanting to spend the money, and he said this is not going to spend the money if the team doesn't do well. It's like almost like, it reminds me of Rachel Phillips from Major League. You got, like, if you don't make the playoffs, you guys are all fired. Like that to me is like almost like a threat to say this. Hey, we're going to pull back if this team doesn't do well. We're going to just go back to bare bones and just tear it all down and see what happens, because I can save some money on things. I don't know. What did you get out of the article?
So I'm not surprised. To me, like the thing that I always go back to that's baffling to me is that this is the team like that is pushing payroll. Like I never thought like now if you would have said going into last season, like, hey, a year from now, the Rays are really going to be pushing it payroll wise,
Yeah.
and they're going to get uncomfortable with how much money they're taking on in the payroll. But it's all because, they feel like this is our window, this is our time. I think, oh man, okay, great. Like, we
He should
got
be
we got
more
we got
he should
we
be
got
more
the whole band.
Right, he should be more
We got
enthusiastic about, "Hey, we've got a great team. Hey, our payroll's a little bit higher than usual, but the guys that we have on the field these are the guys that we want for 2024." And I'm so enthusiastic about this team this year. Yeah, maybe a little bit uncomfortable. We may be overspending a little bit, but you know what? I'm happy with the way this team looks. And if we make any significant moves along the way, so be it. And if not, it's okay because this is where we're at with the payroll. Not like, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this, or it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense for an owner to say these things when the fan base doesn't really like you all that much. You know what I mean? It's just
Right.
it doesn't make any sense. It's just like you need to really think about what you say before you speak to, especially the media around here.
Right.
And I know a lot of the media around here, it kind of kisses his ass a little bit, but a lot of the other media here, especially on the free media, which we're not on like networks or anything, it's just like, what are you saying? Why you're driving even more? You're making more comments that's gonna make people not like the fan base or not like the team because of you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's like maybe next time don't say anything about the payroll.
I
Let's focus on getting the stadium done. Let's focus on getting the votes to where the stadium can be built, and then that way the payroll can increase once a new stadium is built in the right across the street.
Yeah. It's just crazy to me that like the team that's making things uncomfortable payroll wise is about to put, according to Topkins' article today, Jonathan Aranda as the 5-hole hitter. Like, or the 4-hole as a cleanup hitter. Like,
Mhm.
I just never in a million years would have thought this is the roster that it feels like the Rays are going, or like that the owners can come out and say, yeah, we feel like this is our window. Like we really have like a time right here to, get uncomfortable with the payroll because it feels like this is a really great window for us. And because
Right.
to me, it feels like the team's taking a step back,
Yeah.
at least going into the year. Now I could be eating crow and saying like, oh my gosh, Richie Palacios and Junior Caminero and like Ahmad Rosario, like what great additions, but it's crazy to me that this is the team. So that's what I have a hard time understanding. If anything, it feels like this is the most obvious season to say, hey, we have so many injuries that are going to keep us out.
Mhm.
They're going to keep people out, key guys out until at least halfway through this year and then into next year, that we're going to go lighter this year with the understanding that, we're kind of ramping up for 2025. But, hey, I mean, if it works this year, great. And it sounds like based off what I had read, um, the stadium situation, if that got settled and finalized, I feel like perhaps that allows them to stay uncomfortable through the last few years here at the Trop. But I just, to me, it would be disappointing because I know if they're really serious about pulling back on finances next year, if the team underperforms this year,
Then
I
you have to get
I
rid of
can
everybody. You're
I
getting
can
rid of
already
everybody.
I can already tell you exactly who's going to be on the
I
chopping block.
I
If
already know
they're,
who
I mean,
Rosarena, Brandon
Rosen,
Lau,
Brandon
Zach
Lau,
Zach Eflin, he's gone. Like,
Zach Eflin,
yep,
Yandy,
yep.
Pete Fairbanks. Um, that's just off the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure you could probably make the case for
It
uh,
it it almost seems
any of
like
the guys.
this
Shane,
what he's also it also seems like too what he's also saying is, okay, by the trade deadline, if we're not, in first or second, trades are gonna happen. And the guys that we're gonna trade are the guys that are making the most money.
yeah. So it's tough. Tough to know what's based on this year, like what's going to happen. I don't. Let's just hope that the team is successful, and hey, let's keep it moving.
Yep.
So I, as long as honestly, I'm more concerned about the stadium getting done than I am the payroll at the moment. So
That's another rabbit
hopefully,
hole I don't wanna go into because
no, but
I was
hopefully
thinking
they
about
can
it
get that.
today.
Yeah, hopefully they can get it figured out. I mean, selfishly, I don't live in the area anymore, so I do feel like if the team left for another market, like a Nashville or something, I wouldn't be as quite as impacted because I'm already cheering from afar. But I have such an affection and tie to the Tampa Bay area, being growing up in Lakeland and being born and raised and growing up in Lakeland my whole life, that like I just don't want to see them leave anywhere or leave at all. So I just really hope that they get that figured out soon. But yeah, we don't need to go into that at the moment.
That's another rabbit hole we don't want to get into. So
real quick, because we talked about last week, Blake Snell signed with
the Giants 2 years. Yeah, good for him. Staying in the Bay Area, so he doesn't have to move that far away. So, hey, I think that's good for him. It's good.
It's just the wrong Bay Area. You were right on it, except you just picked the wrong Bay Area,
wrong coast.
So yeah, enjoy those taxes, though.
Yeah, no, right.
Like, I guess he's used to it. He's been in San Diego, so.
Plus the overcrowdedness too in California. Everybody's leaving going to Texas, so enjoy that. Enjoy that, Blake.
Yeah, he'll be fine though. I think that's probably one of the better teams he could have gone to as far as for a pitcher's park. He's gonna. I think he'll succeed there.
I was so glad he didn't pick because I know Houston was throwing out a contract to him. I was like, please don't go to Houston. Please don't go to Houston. And luckily, he's staying in the NL and staying out west, so that's fine with me.
Yep,
so that's cool.
Perfect with me.
Well, thanks guys for joining in for another episode of the Raise Rewind podcast on the Sick Media Podcast Network. We are here every single week for new episodes. We're 10 days away from opening day, everybody. And what's also cool about it too is Budweiser is coming out with Tampa Bay Rays themed cans. So make sure if you buy Budweiser, go out and get those before the season starts because they're only for a limited time only. And I know I'll be getting a couple cases myself and putting them outside in my pool area. So, for myself and Drew, we'll see you guys next time on the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast in all the land. Make sure to go to the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind YouTube page, hit that subscribe and notification bell for when new episodes drop. We will see you guys next week. Take it easy.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.